Okay, ready?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the TARC meeting of October 24th, 21st, I'm sorry, 21st to order. It's 4:01. And what I'd like to do first, I'm just going to go down the, I'm sorry? Oh, there's some feedback. If you're not talking, please put your microphone on mute, please. Okay, what I'm going to do for attendance, I'm just going to go down the list to, just to see who's here. I think it's going to be a little easier. Okay, so again, I'm Alex David. I'm present. Deborah.
I'm here. Hi,
Okay.
everybody.
Hi. Yvonne.
Here.
Thank you. Juan. Juan, are you still on? Do you see him, Oscar? Okay, I don't either. So, I mean, he was there, so he'll probably join us again. Roy Danziger. Jackie Gennard.
Can you hear me?
Yep, now we can.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anab.
I'm here.
Thank you. Linda Julian. Sunless Martin. Angela Miller. Steve Pina.
Yep, present.
Thank you. And Richard Strime. Okay, not present. So with that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 present, and I'm sure Juan will join us again. So 7 members are present, so we do have a quorum. Okay. So I'd like, first item, approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda as is?
Debbie moves.
And could you say your name? Is that
Debbie.
okay? It's Debbie. May I have a second?
I second, Jackie.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from last month's meeting, which was September 16th. I reviewed them. I didn't see anything, any changes necessary. They were very, pretty thorough. Does anyone else have any changes?
This is Debbie. I moved them.
Okay, Debbie, move. I need a second, please.
Second.
Yvonne? That was
Yeah.
Yvonne, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving right along. Roman numeral 2 is our action item for today, which is the Underline phase 2 and DTBW staff. Irene Hedges will be presenting today. So Irene, do you have access to the slide presentation, or are we just going to run it? How is that going to work?
Just let me know when to
I'm
proceed
sorry.
to the next slide.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm hoping to make this presentation again, hopefully sometime towards December or January when we have more information. It has been quite a bit of time since we last presented. And what we have, I wanted to give you an overall update on where we are with phase 2. So when we first started this project, as you know, this is a 10-mile corridor, and because of funding and how funding was trickling down, we tried to split the project into 9 segments. Just because every time that we apply for a grant for $3 million, we get 1. We apply for 5, we get 1.5. However, we have been fairly successful. We have about $37 million in grants. 22.3 are pretty much from the bill grant that was just awarded. And then we have been able to get the municipalities. We have the City of Miami and City of Coral Gables that are providing some funding. And we have not received anything from the City of South Miami. But we also have the road impact fee. So right now, the project appears to be fully funded. It is about $145 million total. Let's go to the next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so what this happens.
There we go.
There you go. Thank you so much. As you know, obviously, the Underline is a project for the community. It is first and foremost is really to increase the safety. As we know, we're one of the most dangerous places for cyclists, especially along US 1. Also, the return of investment we're seeing fairly clear as we see a lot of TODs and people wanting to be around this area now and coming to us to trying to see whether they can build portions of the Underline as a contribution to the community. And we do, obviously, we know where the health benefits are. There has been a long report that has been prepared, what those are. This is first and foremost a multimodal connectivity transportation corridor. If you go to the next slide, you can see that we are going to be connecting to 8 transit stations. All of those transit stations have some bus terminals. So it allows people to actually walk within half a mile, 10 minutes walk, and they will be connecting to the stations. We're connecting 1 university, 24 schools. We have 3 hospitals, urgent care facilities. And at the end of the day, we have several transit-oriented developments like the ones at the Grove Central, Lincoln Douglas, Gable Station, South Miami Station. And then obviously this is not a TOD, but wants to build a portion of the Underline, which will be the collection, the Jaguar Land Rover. All of those developments fall within phases 4 and 5 of the Underline. Next slide. You can see in here, because of the funding that we have received, we have the project actually broken into 3 components now instead of 9. Phase number 1 was awarded in November of 2018. The project is going to be complete on November 16th. So we're planning now the grand opening. In fact, the preliminary opening was supposed to be on Monday, but because of the rain, we have to postpone. The contractor obviously has been trying to build and finish the project through the COVID-19 crisis, the pandemic. He has been having some issues, obviously, with the rain. When it's wet, you cannot put the acrylic toppings on the pavements. So it is quite a challenge right now because every single day we're having rain and it's difficult to complete the project that way. Then we have phase 2. Well, let's go back. Phase 1 is from the Miami River to Southwest 13th Avenue, and that's half a mile. That's the one actually I presented to you in 2018. So in October 6th of this year, Board of Commissioners approved the award to LEED, which are present right now in this presentation as the members of LEED, awarded phase 2. And this is a design build phase. It stands from Southwest 13th Street to Southwest 19th Avenue. It's 2.14 miles. The team has been working. They have not received the notice to proceed yet. They have been working at their own risk because they want to accelerate the project as much as they can. They did a preliminary unofficial 45% submittal to the county and to FDOT. Those are being reviewed by internal and external individuals. And right now we're going through all of the processes, all of the surveys and everything that is required, including FP&L, the injector project. I'm sure that you're aware of that, where they're burying all of the high transmission lines 30 feet below. In some of it is in our right of way, some of them is on the streets, adjacent streets. And then we also are working on the design criteria package. We received funding from the state of about $1.5 million, and we had to match 500,000 of that. That project was awarded also in August to Kinley Horn and Associates to develop the design criteria package for the rest of the project. Now, that design criteria package will become the 30% design documents that are required for us to execute the contract with the bill grant, with the Federal Transit Administration, FTA. We expect that contract to be executed in September of next year. And the entire project, 100% of it has to be totally completed, closed on the books, audited, and everything else required by no later than June of 2026. Next slide. I'm gonna see if I have forgotten something. Nothing on next slide. Okay.
Yeah, the consultant's having problems with, there we go.
In here are just some images of what you can see. A lot of them are from phase one, the basketball court, how it's going to look under the Brickell area with the bicycles, some of the equipments that are going to be incorporated for exercise. Obviously, there have been some deviations on the graphics from what you're seeing here in the slides to what actually the FHWA approved as part of the MUTCDs. One interesting part is that if you see on the bicycle path, there is a green line on the center of that. That is actually, that line needed to be yellow to meet the standards, even though they don't have a standard for off-road facilities. But the Underline did not feel that they wanted to introduce a non-standard color. So the bike lanes are not going to be separated. They're not going to have that green line in the middle. And the rest of it is anything related to bicycles and pedestrians or any kind of symbols that are placed on the pavement. They're now enclosed on a circle and they are high contrast as required by the MUTCD. The rest pretty much stands the same. We did go to commission first in February and then again in August to modify our zoning ordinances to allow for the signage on the Underline. We first had to go to the FTA to receive approval, and then we had to go to the FDOT central office in Tallahassee, which are the ones who control the Highway Verification Act. So we fall within 660 feet of assisted highway, federal highway, which is US 1. With the exception of 2 blocks in the project, everything falls within that. So they needed to tell us whether it was okay, our proposals. Once they say yes, then our ER went ahead and modified to allow for those signage on the columns, which is informational. It is, you know, what it says, the Underline, it has the mile markers, and it has some donor acknowledgement as well, freestanding and some in the columns. Next slide. I did speak about phase one, the contract award. Hopefully, I just checked to see whether when we're gonna be issuing notice to proceed. It is imminent, so within the next few days, I believe that we should be receiving it. And then everything about phase 3. So we do have the funding in place and working on the design criteria package. That phase is 7.36 miles long. Next slide. We have been working a lot in other things, obviously, that impact the Underline. One of them, obviously, is art in public places. So we have been working with APP, Michael Springs Group. We also have we have a lot of funds that are coming from private institutions. So the Knight Foundation gave us about $500,000. Well, it gave the Underline management organization. They gave $500,000 that was matching, and they are $200,000 short from reaching that $1 million. And they have started with a fairly significant and comprehensive master plan. They started the development of that. Jimena Caminos, which is a well-known person, she did the Faena district in Miami Beach, is leading the effort. And they're working hand in hand with Michael Springs Group, with APP, to see how is it that public purchases or private purchases can be acquired by the county or maintained by the county once the installations are done. So they're going through all that process right now. in terms of the legal documents, we went with the City of Miami. City of Miami had originally committed 50 million, up to, I have to say, up to $50 million for their portion, which is about 4 segments. And they pretty much knew that they were never going to reach that amount. And also there was a caveat. For every dollar that we brought to the table, they decreased their grant. So at the end of the day, we went back to them and we said, based on our estimates, we need $15 million from you to do what we call, we have the corridor component, the path component, the eligible items and non-eligible items. So the non-eligible items will be the amenities. That is not covered either by road impact fees or by any of the grants that we have received. So they went ahead and they modified and they just passed just in September. It was approved. We also went to the City of Coral Gables. Originally, they have said that they were going to do up to $15 million. But for the City of Coral Gables, we require really $9.2 million. So they went ahead and modified that. I believe that 2.2 coming back from one developer and then $7 million that were associated and set aside by the City of Coral Gables for the project. And that is coming out of park impact fees and mobility impact fees. And again, like I said, we don't have anything with the City of South Miami. So all of those agreements are in place. In addition, we have an agreement with the City of Miami for maintenance, which means that every time we have to get out of our right of way and need some from theirs, we identify those areas, we identify what those improvements are, and then we maintain them. When we say we, through the management agreement with the Underline, will be friends of the Underline that will be maintaining those areas. From the FTA perspective, we need to make sure that anything we do outside, that we have some kind of legal document that says that there's not going to be a gap in the entire corridor, and the useful life of the facility is about 20 years. So there's been a lot of legal documents and a lot of ordinance changes. It's incredibly complex project. And obviously through all of that has been the involvement with the DDA, the Miami River Commission, and all of the associations, neighborhood associations along the path. So now we are starting to get ready to plan the neighborhood meetings for phase 2. That would include the discussions of not necessarily the path alignment or the intersection design, but it's going to be about the amenities. In terms of the intersection design, we have worked with FDOT. FDOT has a work program that is improving the intersections along US 1. And we are working with their consultants. Every time that there's money to improve an intersection, we're trying to get them to improve it to match the standards of the Underline and to make sure that they are creating the highest level of safety for the crossings. And it's fairly complicated. We sometimes have 2 different consulting firms designing the same intersection and then sharing ideas to trying to see which one is going to be the best one of them all and the ones that actually can be built. There are some instances where they are doing some improvements and we're going to have to come back and modify slightly those improvements to reach the level of safety that is required by our standards. Next. I don't know if you have seen the project or you have had the opportunity to visit. If not, let me know and we set up some tours. But all of this is already done. The river room is actually the one that has the best landscaping right now because construction is no longer there and it is looking amazing. So now we're working some minor details with the Miami River Commission on the connectivity and benches and trash containers and signage and all that kind of thing. So, but I encourage you to do it. The rest of the photographs you have seen on this PowerPoint, again from 2018. Let's see next. But just to complete, that's pretty much where we are today. I would like to come back and show you renderings after we had the community meetings and the design team has had the opportunity to revise their documents to show you what that is going to look like. Phase 2 will have 3 amenities. One of them will be a Simpson Park, which is the City of Miami always wanted something in there, and that's going to be more a more active kind of park, and it's going to be for children. And then the other two are passive. One of them is north of the Vizcaya station, where the bridge that is the pedestrian bridge over US 1 connects to Vizcaya Gardens. Vizcaya have requested some kind of connectivity and some kind of awareness on our side to trying to really set a link between the two, and also try to connect to the other bike trail to the Rickenbacker. So that plaza, we had the original meeting, the first meeting with Vizcaya, where we walked the site. And as we move along with the design, we issue a notice to proceed. Some of the elements are going to start materialized. And then the third plaza, which is also a very passive area, is going to be along, I believe it's 17th Avenue, south of Vizcaya Station. And that's where we are.
Okay, great. Thank you, Irene. Really appreciate it. Is there anyone on your team that wants to say anything else, or you were just covering everything for the whole team?
I believe that Ken Garner is in the meeting.
Yep.
And Fernando, do you want to add anything?
No, I would probably let Ken speak, and probably Alex. We've been presenting to the TARC also for the Golden Glades multimodal with the same team with AMP and Ken, as you may recall. But we'll be leading our major efforts towards the landscaping in coordination with the county. So if you have any questions, Ken, probably you can introduce what is the approach on the criteria that we're trying to achieve here for the team to understand.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah.
He wants
Again, I'm just to keep some order, because so no one, people don't jump off over each other. I'm going to start and then just go through again our member list and try to do, just see, keep it a little bit more orderly. Just one correction on, I think, your fourth slide, the project phases slide, which was for the phase 1 ends at 13th Street, I believe, not 13th Avenue.
Correct.
So that's just a little correction. You addressed in the one slide, you referred to that there are about 250,000 residents within the mile or half mile on each side of the underline. Did you all study how many employees there are? Because I mean, that could be a big number too in some of the areas.
Correct. I believe that all of those numbers are in the studies that were done, not only for the return on investment, but also on the health component. So these are just residents walking to, and not necessarily employers, but we can look at those numbers.
Right. Just so I think in future presentations, I mean, because it could be very impactful. And just to wind up, I just have one question, but I mean, this is really very impactful, transformational project, and I wish it was going to be done quicker than 2026. 2026. But I guess we'll have to wait for the final ribbon cutting or whatever at the end. Just one quick question. You discussed the intersection. Will there be some type of prioritization, signalization, priority signalization for people on the underline crossing 17th, 27th, 37th Avenues? How will that work?
Fernando, do you have anybody that can answer that?
Yes. On the crossings, probably Mario, if you want to, you can interrupt me at any time. But on the crossings, we've been coordinating with the county and with the FDOT at every single one of those intersections. At the beginning, we were planning on having a different path with the bicycles towards the west side, and then the pedestrian towards the east side towards US 1. So we flipped those paths in coordination with DOT. We coordinated with the county and DOT about different improvements of the crossings. We have major crossings, not only on within our project footprint, but that extends on the phase 3 as well. So we learned from those coordination meetings in between the county and DOT for the master plan. We apply those in our project. And I don't know if there's an opportunity for us to present something here on these slides that probably we can bring some drawings in the screen. But all those conflicts have been fine-tuned with the latest survey that we completed just 2 weeks and a half ago. So we're planning on implementing those, with the blessing from DOT, and we send those already for DOT's review just a week and a half ago. So we don't expect any major comments on that regard. And I think both ADA are in compliance with the criteria, and should be good to go on our end. We don't expect
So Fernando, let me just, so there are 3 levels of intersections, right? So they are the major, medium, and minor intersections. Most of the intersections within phase 2 are for either minor or medium intersection crossings. However, we do have some major ones, and we have worked with FDOT to see whether we can build bridges over it, what are the likelihood of people using those bridges over those intersections. And at the end of the day, we're going on street level, just because people are not going to go a quarter mile each direction. And us having to acquire some properties to be able to reach that. Having said that, we are working with FDOT on the signalization and with our department. So within DTPW, the traffic engineering on the pet signals to see whether we can provide prioritization to that. So now, if you're on a pet, that's great, but if you're in a bicycle, you have to get to the signal and be able to get your priority, push the signal to do that. That is something that on phase 3, Kimley Horn is actually had already reached out to the county to trying to coordinate with FDOT and their work to see whether this is a feature that can be added, even if it's an extra cost, to see whether we can build it into the budgets.
Good afternoon, Alex. This is Mario Rojas, AMP Design Project Manager. From the engineering perspective, everything, like I said, within the intersection is standard FDOT hardware. And as of right now, it's going to have all of the ADA compliant pedestrian signalization heads that are required by FDOT. But at the moment, there's no preemption, so that the system knows the bicyclist is coming, so it stops traffic. That that's not included in this project as of right now.
Okay, I mean, I just think that's very important, to really, consider that. I mean, as this gets busier and busier, I think it's going to be more important to have, priority signalization or some method to get people, across the major, roadways, because there are quite, a number of them. We all know them, a number of them on this whole, in this whole area. So. I think that needs a bit, further discussion. But with that, I'm going to end my questions, comments, and move on to Debbie. Debbie, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. I'm speaking of coordination. What kind of coordination is being done with the improvements being made to some of the stations? We talked at our last meeting about the Dadeland South Station, and I understand there's also some improvements being made to the Douglas Station.
Correct.
In the works.
So we have several of them. So we have, for example, Grove Central. They're taking the entire property and making it into a plaza. The only thing that they are not building is the bicycle path, which we will be taking care as part of phase 3. We have met with the designers from the beginning and trying to determine the areas where the pedestrians will be able to move through, for example, 27th all the way south, and how you interfere with the bus bays if they are bus bays, or how is it, are you going to be covered, or how do you interfere with the traffic coming in and out of the stations? So we will be coming back, since it's all unifying to one plaza. Signage is going to be important. So we will be coming back and adding the underline signage and the directional signage that goes into the columns and the lighting. When we go to the Lincoln Douglas, which is the next one at 37, that is much more impactful, because that one not only involves the Lincoln Douglas project, but also involves the site where the Dio Volvo used to be. Right now, if you know the impact, you come directly to that intersection, you have to demount. And most people just get their life into their own hands because that's a turbo lane. So that is a right turn on red. And they go across on a bicycle right into a bus lane. So what we have done, working together with the developer of 3550 Bird, which is the deal Volvo, they have actually created a civic space in the corner of the property that allows actually for the bicycles to sweep right into Peacock. And then we go across Pico with all the underline standard crossings. And that's a lighted intersection. And then that project, the Lincoln Douglas, is picking up the trail and moving it through their facility. So again, they do have a big plaza. The pedestrians will be running right in front of the doors into the, and between the bus station and plaza, they're running through there. And then the bicycle is going on the other side between the station itself and the parking lot. So right now we have not finalized the full coordination with them, but the issue is not there now that we got the north end. Now we're working on the south end because they added also a circle. And how do you close the circle? So originally they had the pedestrians going west, south, and again back, and nobody's going to use that. We're keeping line of sights. More likely people are just simply go across in a straight line to trying to catch the path on the other side. So we have looked at all of that and reconfigure how the pedestrians and the bicycles move to give them the direct crossing at a safe point. Sometimes we are coming together to create a shared use path because of the amount of right of way that we have available and the crossing on the street. So we're coming from a pedestrian to bicycle, bringing together, crossing, and then splitting them up again. Then as we move south from that, we had the collection, which it is maintaining two separate paths. And then the Gable Station, again, separated two paths. In there, the city of Coral Gables is planning on building a dog park, will be the first one within the city. So we're integrating that park into the design. And as you move south, we don't have much more in terms of transit-oriented development. South Miami is not even part of our right-of-way. They're doing some improvements to the station. But that will be incorporated as part of our phase 3. They're not doing much on that. And then obviously when we get to Dayland South, our project stops at Dayland Boulevard. So we have coordinated how the impasse arrives into the station on the kiss and ride, together with the designers for the remodeling of the station and for the expansions to the BRT to the south. And then we have had discussions on how to connect to a future trail or to the existing trail south of Deltran Boulevard.
Thank you. Any other questions, Debbie?
No.
Okay, thank you. Yvonne, you're up next.
No, I don't have any. I've missed a couple of meetings, so I'm writing real fast here to catch up on everything. But
Welcome back.
I didn't realize it was going to take this long to get it done, but no doubt all of the problems with the virus and everything else have not helped at all.
No.
Yeah, sounds interesting, definitely.
Thank you. All right, next up, and Juan got back on. Juan, do you have any questions and comments?
One is muted if he has anything.
Yeah, Juan, you're muted. Okay, we'll move on. Jackie, do you have any comments, questions?
Actually, I do have a question.
Okay.
There is I do notice that we have 3 phases, but the longest stretch is 7.36 miles long. Correct?
Yes.
Any reason why it was broken down in such, I guess,
the length?
Yes, in such length. We started with 0.5, 2.14, and this one is 7.36.
I had to do 100% with funding and when we have to spend those funds. So if a DOT gives us, if the FTA gives us $22.3 million, and it says that it is it has to be used in the entire project, and it has to be completed by 26, we went ahead and reallocated the rest of the funding to trying to do the rest of the project at one setting. Now it's going to be broken down. The construction itself is going to be broken down into segments. There's no way you can actually close the entire empath and have it under construction at the same time. That would be ideal, but it's not feasible. So you will, for example, phase one was broken down into 5 phases. So they have 5 blocks. So once they were remediating one, they moved to the second one. And then when they were remediating, they were doing civil work, and then they moved remediation, civil work, and landscape and utilities. So it is layer after layer after layer, and they're moving along, the corridor. Now, a contractor may suggest that they may want to close a big chunk, maybe want to close a mile at a time. In that point, we will have to work to see how feasible that is and what will be required to do that. But it's funding, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Mhm.
Okay, Anab? Do you have any?
No question, Alex. Just happy to see it going along.
Yes,
Good for it to finish.
great. Okay, Steve?
Well, yeah, I'd like to bring up what we discussed at the last meeting. As you talked about going through stations, you had the bikers continuing to ride their bikes through the stations. Am I understanding that right? You separated the pedestrians from the bike riders, and they ended up, the bikers were riding, correct?
Correct.
So-
Now the bikers can unmount if they want to. They can incorporate into the plazas, but they will have a dedicated path that is completely separated from pedestrians, that they continue to move south or north without having to participate or be part of the plaza.
And where you end down there is right at the Dadeland Plaza, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Where we end the trail is right at the Dadeland Plaza where Dark Tran is, and
Yeah, we will end the trail right at the kiss and ride of Dayland North. Dayland
so-
South. I'm sorry.
Dayland South, okay.
so
Yeah.
at our meeting, we had a project, I believe it was for $47 million to build that. And in their presentation, which was a design build project, was that they were going to have the path, they knew the path was coming, and their idea was that everybody just got off their bikes and pushed it through the trail, And I believe, isn't the trail continuing afterwards down down to Perrine, down that
Yes.
Yes, they have a trail right now in place.
now, right? So then this would break that, and it just seems like they should be talking to you so that whatever your standards are for having these trails go there, they should be designing their project, and it shouldn't be an afterthought. Because, design can be not expensive if they plan it properly. And so we had over and over at this meeting where if the design people just put it in ahead of time, then we don't have to come back and do it later. So I hope they're reaching out to talk to you about this, because that was our suggestion. But the idea that we were going to just get off our bikes and walk that brand new plaza when everything else was ride just seems ludicrous to me. So hopefully they are communicating, and if not, I would hope you guys would reach out to them.
Right. I mean,
And that's, I'm really excited that this has come to South Florida, and I agree. I wish we could see it faster than we are, but I'm glad to hear it's fully funded and we have an end date. So good luck.
Well,
with
we're gonna need help with procurement, because that's one of the things that is delaying us the most.
I'm excited about it, but really, if they put that $47 million project up and didn't consider our cash, then we have to come through with another $1 million to correct it. That just seems ludicrous. So even though they're not on their to-do list in their design build, maybe it still should be considered. And maybe some coordination here would help them, because maybe they don't really know what has gone on through this project. And
And which project is this one? Do you know? Do you
This is the
remember?
This is the Dadeland South renovation to the Dadeland South Station to
Yes.
allow
So-
the bus rapid transit to come, into the station. So what Steve is talking about on the north side of that, we were raising concerns because, it was a very narrow end, very, I guess, narrow end to the bike, the M path down there now. And there was just no real connectivity, it seemed. And like Steve said, it was like almost you have to get off your bike and walk your bike to the south.
Well, it is.
Well,
There's
that is-
one area where that happens, and we had that discussion. It has to do, we had the empath coming to the kiss and ride, and what we're doing is that we're gonna be taking a full set of parking there. Parking, not only do you have the empath, but you also have parallel parking there. So we're taking that line of traffic. I asked them to please do not do anything with the lighting, because if you use federal dollars to put the lighting, then I cannot touch it. So don't do it so I can touch it with this project. When we get to the kiss and ride, now you're at the station. That's our endpoint for the Underline. If you want to continue go south, that's where we have the problem crossing Daytran. At least, at the very least, we worked and we coordinated the crossing of that street to be straight and parallel, perpendicular to the crossing instead of diagonally, because nobody was using that. And we sat there and we observed people, where they're coming from and how they're crossing Dayland. Once from that little point, from the kiss and ride drop off across where the new elevators are going to be and getting right up to Dayland Boulevard, that's where you demount the bicycles. You don't have any space at all to actually, you have a 5-foot sidewalk, that's it. And that is going to be bicyclists and pedestrians. Will people demount? Probably not. Do you going to have a lot of pedestrians walking through that area? Probably not, because now we are creating a full entrance at the kiss and ride with an elevator, stairs, everything that is needed, which is not there right now. All you have is a stair, but you don't have an elevator, forcing people to go all the way across to take the elevator on the station. On the other hand, it allows for duplicity. So when elevator goes down, at least you have the other one functioning as well. But that would be the only area where people will have to demount, because there's not sufficient space, sufficient width to actually get to Daytran, not to Dadeland Boulevard.
Well, it just seems to me that this is a beautiful, beautiful project. And the connectivity, we're spending about $200 million here. And it just seems like it's an afterthought for the bikers when they get there to have to, oh, what? There's no space for us. And yet there's all this other space that's been created. So it just seems like it's a design problem. Maybe it does take money after all to make that happen, but I guess you've considered it, and I can only speak that I'm happy that you're considering it, but it just seems like a.
So they through Dayland South, in front of the station at the ground level, you will have enough space for bikers to move down to Daytran Boulevard. And you will cross Daytran Boulevard safely, because we did evaluate that area. Our problem is really Dayland Boulevard, and it's not the street itself, but it's that tiny little 60 feet between the backup curve and where the entrance to the station is at the kiss and ride. We have the columns of the Metro Rail, we have the road, and then we have a fence. So that is pushing people into a 5-foot sidewalk, which is not the best of situations.
They're building that big bridge to lift the buses up to the top.
Yeah, well, we're gonna go right under that.
So here you are, you've designed all this stuff for the buses, but nobody's considering the bicycles on a $200 million project. That is, it's all built for the bikes, it seems like. Not only bikes, but certainly that's a main thought in this whole thoroughfare. So that's all. I'm just trying to point out that when it's all said and done, that people will look at that and say, well, where's the bike lane? And the answer, there is, you built the bus lanes to go upstairs. So some kind of design could solve this problem, I would think.
So
there's money that's needed to actually do it. Right?
Irene, where is the endpoint? So, I'm looking at Google Earth too right now. Where is the actual endpoint of the Underline on the south side?
Can you put Google Earth on the screen?
Oh, I'm not good at technologies.
Yeah, me neither. Okay.
You're asking
So
too much. I don't know if it's Dadeland, uh, Dadeland Boulevard or,
it's Dayland Boulevard. It's actually the circle. So the project, the Dayland South project on the Kiss and Ride, which is directly to the north of Dayland Boulevard,
yes.
it's going to have a circle where cars will come in and go around the circle and then exit that lot. And that is for drop-off area. It finishes, the project ends right at that circle.
So just north of Dadeland Boulevard.
North of Dayland Boulevard, correct.
Right, okay.
So I'm trying to find because I can put it, here it is. I think I can show you, I had a Dayland North, how convenient.
I just want everyone to know, exactly the endpoint. So, to address what, Steve was talking about and what we were all concerned with at the last meeting.
Let's see, can you see?
Irene, I have it pulled up on the screen.
That's, perfect, you're the best. That's.
So I think this is the station here.
Yep, that's the station.
And then north is,
Dadeland Boulevard.
we have Dayland Boulevard here.
Yep.
I'm not sure exactly where it ends, Irene. You'd have to let me know.
Okay, leave it there. So you see the yellow line of Dayland Boulevard, right?
Yep.
And you see that is brown, that's a platform. And
Right.
then north of that, you're gonna see our canopy that steps down.
Yep.
Okay, right there.
Okay.
That's the end point.
Right.
So what we did is that we coordinated with the designers all the way how Dayland Boulevard crossing needs to align with the area between the station and that ramp for the buses. And that's where the bicycles are going to travel a straight shot through. And there's going to be a rock garden and things like that on the bottom. And then how it crosses right there at Dayland, a day trend. So you see that little piece of there. I don't know what is happening in there, but that's supposed to be the empath. How it picks it up. Now, obviously, that's outside the scope of the Underline, but that crossing will be improved at day trend,
right there.
And then it will be picked up again to the trail.
Okay. Right. So it's just.
Well, I appreciate. I would hope that you guys are communicating and that there's some.
Yes, we are.
You're with that project would in the design feature could probably save us a lot of money. That's all. And it didn't seem like they had really considered it. Maybe they had, but when they presented to us, it just didn't seem like you two were talking.
Right. No, they went, it's too narrow. I mean, that's basically there wasn't,
Yeah.
Well,
the shared use path, the standard is 10 to 12 feet if you're using a shared use path. Even in the Underline, there are pinch points where we cannot achieve that width, just because we don't have the right of way. One of them is on phase 2 between 13th, 13th Street and 15th Street where Publix is. If you're familiar with that area, we only have 13 feet of easement in there.
Right.
So by the time you separate it from the fence, so we have pinch points where we have tried to reach out to the owner of the property for years. He's from Mexico, and trying to see whether he will be willing to give us a larger easement. And obviously they will get the benefit of having and fronting the Underline that is eventually going to return on the investment is going to be fairly large, and nothing. I mean, it was totally inconclusive. So at the end of the day, we're dealing with whatever right of way we have. We're also working with the city of Miami right now because between Simpson Park and all the way 17th Street, we have where the Metro Rail hits the ground, and we have an embankment wall and we have a sand wall. And the city of Miami right away is smack right there, and we have a lot of trees. Well, we know how precious those trees are to the neighborhoods. And for us to be able to get the path that is standard for us, we need all of that space, which means eliminating the trees. And what you're going to be left on is going to be with a concrete wall and a lot of asphalt nicely painted. So we are going to do a shared use path where we're going to leave the trees, trying to see where we can do something with the concrete wall in some areas. But at the end of the day, they're going to be pinch points until we can clear that area and open it up again. So it is the same issue that you're going to find in any urban environment. You're going to have challenges where you cannot get the ideal situation, but we're going to try to do our best to resolve it. So yesterday we have our first meeting with the city of Miami to also trying to find out what kind of improvements they have planned for the street, and apparently they have none. So
Too bad you can't double deck this thing in certain areas.
yes. Yes.
Anyway, well, thank you. That's all I have to talk.
Great, thank you, Steve. Is there, I don't think I missed any other committee members, correct? Everyone spoke? All right. Oscar, did you have any questions or need to follow up on anything dealing with this?
I think Juan tried to speak earlier, but he had technical difficulties. I see that he's unmuted now. I don't know if he wants to say something.
Right, Juan, are you, you're,
Am I?
there you are.
There we go. I
Okay,
was looking for Ken Trister and, I mean, Ken Gardner, you finally surfaced there.
yeah.
Ken, what can you tell us about the landscaping? You know, I see this dozen renderings and lush landscaping and fully developed trees, and some of them, I don't think they grow down here. So what can you tell me? Tree species.
Okay, so let me just start with this, and I hope that Ken can elaborate on that. So the framework plan for the Underline, which was created in 2015, involved not only James Cornerfield Operation, which is a landscape architect that did the Highline, but also Fairchild Gardens. And they have went ahead and when I evaluated the entire site and look at all of the native vegetation and created character zones based on what can grow in those areas. So each character zone has a very large number of species that are native to South Florida. And the idea obviously is to be sustainable, not to use irrigation, and trying to get those plants to look as beautiful as possible with the least amount of maintenance. In the design criteria package, all of those character zones and the landscaping material was actually outlined. Once the landscape, so they have not done that right now. What they have done is finalizing the full tree survey and plant specimen survey. But once they have a preliminary design where they start identifying all of the species, all of that is going to be taken to Fairchild, and their arborists are going to be determining, in conjunction with our parks department, they're going to be determining the adequacy of survivability and doing well. In fact, we had, as an example, phase one, we have peanut grass. Our parks department said there's no way that peanut grass is going to grow in there. And Fairchild said, yes, it's going to grow with this soil. So obviously you have a soils plan, and the soils plan identifies certain type of soils for some areas for the plantings. You have to see how beautiful that peanut grass has grown. It is dense, full, and is doing beautifully. So that's pretty much the kind of the steps that we do. I don't believe that Ken has gotten to the steps right now of plant selection, other than they received from us the criteria of what that plant material needed to be. I hope that answered your question, Juan.
If I may,
I'd like to hear from Ken.
interject.
Yes.
Was that you, Debbie?
No, it's Yvonne. May I
Oh, Yvonne, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's all right. I'd like to make a couple of comments regarding the landscaping, obviously, because you all believe when I first came on to the group that I was, I was having trouble with the fact that nothing that was being planted out there was going to be landscaped, and the installer, I think, had a year or two to maintain it when they would bring their trucks and water everything. And the folks made a believer out of this non-believer because I have made it a mission to follow up with every one of the projects that were finished over a year ago to see what the survivability of the plants is without permanent irrigation. And it is amazing what Mother Nature will do if you plant things properly. Don't stick them all the way down to the bottom and don't leave them at the surface. And Mother Nature will take care of it. So the folks did make a believer out of me. I thought for sure everything was going to die, and that's not the case. So
Well, we had two things. I appreciate that there has been a tremendous amount of effort done on the landscaping component. Yes, we do have the contractor, and I think Visualscapes is the landscape contractor for phase one. After substantial landscaping, as a substantial completion of the landscaping, they're responsible for the watering, weeding, and trimming of everything for the first year.
correct.
Also, we have the management organization, which is responsible of maintenance of all of this to a world-class facility. So it is on their shoulders to actually maintain it, improve it, and to make it look like it was from the beginning. So hopefully all of that worked.
No, it did. It did. And it's kudos to you folks. I mean, obviously I come from a different world where we put in irrigation on every single project, but I tip my hat off to the folks that planned it because it works.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if anybody can hear me.
Okay, we got Ken. Okay.
Oh, okay, good. Now you can hear me. Excellent. So we are planting plants that are almost strictly native to the area and plants that will be growing well in the in the soil that we have here. So we should be fine.
No, I don't doubt it. That's the point I made, that you guys obviously knew what plants to put where and how to deal with it. And it worked. You made a believer out of me.
I was muted. Sorry. Thank you for that, Yvonne. Okay, so any other comments on this project? Okay.
Alex, if I may, just one observation I noticed. I see a lot of dogs in all these renderings. Is there a plan to put receptacles in place for at least the responsible dog owners who can have the opportunity to pick up after their pets?
Yes, we have the dog signs, which was part of our signage package sent to the FDA. And it's part of actually the ordinance that was made with the doggy bags. Now, I will tell you this. It doesn't matter how many bags and signs you put up. People just don't pick them up, and they bring their dogs to do whatever they want and anywhere they want it. And that was the problem that we have with Neo Vertica and right in front of the Miami River, where we spend the entire staff spend a full afternoon picking dog poop. We put all the chairs, we bury it. We have police and still people were going with their dogs under the stuff, right up to the chairs and let them do it. And you call their attention and they say, I don't care. So at this point, with the exception of being able to find and start policing fairly close, we are providing the signs, we're providing the bags, we're providing the areas for the dogs to go to. But it's, other than that, I don't know what we're gonna do. Enforcing, we should have fines. Like those red light cameras, $158 for each right turn on red.
For each poop.
They will take one poop and that's it.
Right.
That's right. Only one time you pay that.
Okay, Oscar. So do we need to have a resolution or make a motion to accept what we have received, seen today, or do we just say thank you? What do we need?
It's really at the discretion of the committee. I don't know if Irene maybe wants to come back later on with a lot more details, because these were like cursory overviews. If maybe for the next several months, if they'll have a lot more aesthetics, signage, lighting related slides, and that's something that we could endorse.
Right. I mean, that's kind of my feeling. That's why I asked the question. I mean, this is, it's not as detailed as we would need to see to make any, motions supporting this item. So, I mean, unless anyone in the committee has, feels otherwise, I think, we could just wrap up this item.
I agree. This is Debbie.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I concur.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you, Irene, and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating. We're, I'm very excited about this as everyone else on the committee, and I can't wait for you to come back and with a more detailed drawings of the underline.
Absolutely. So we don't have enough right now to give you substantial, to give you the meat of phase 2.
Right.
What I have is really an update of where we are, and I believe that that's a great idea for us to come back probably at the end of November or December, and be able to really give you, after the design team has received all the feedbacks from FDOT and DTPW and the design advisory committee for the underline. So yes, we'll move on. Let you move with your agenda.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. All right. We'll move on to, were there any informational items that were added, Oscar?
No, there weren't any information items this
So I
time
didn't
around.
think so, but I thought I'd ask. All right, moving on. Are there any member reports?
This is Debbie. Yes, I have something.
Okay.
I was so alarmed during our last meeting about the Dayland South Station. I had indicated at that meeting that I would be attending the BPAC meeting for October because the consultants had said they would be presenting there. They did not present at the October meeting. That was deferred to the November meeting, but I did alert their coordinator in case for some reason I couldn't attend, that this was going to be coming in front of them, and that we had a concern about the requirement to dismount, have bicycles dismount. I also learned that, and we just heard now about other improvements at other stations, and I had a brief communication with Oscar about it. We don't see those. We haven't seen those plans. So I would like that we have those plans brought to us so that we could see what's going on at the other stations.
Okay. Yeah, I actually second that. I think, there are things being built that we're not seeing. So, the Douglas, whatever it's called, at Douglas Road and US 1, that's a massive project.
Yeah.
And, it is on a transit site. So, I think we should, really be seeing that. We did see certain projects, mixed use or multifamily projects before that what happened to be cited on county transit property. I know there was one in 20-something Avenue and 60-something Street or 50-something Street that we saw years ago. So, I think we need to keep on top of that and see those mixed use projects as they come in, at these stations. So, I wholeheartedly support what, Debbie just said. Oscar, could you talk, who's the BPAC coordinator?
That's Kevin Walford.
Okay, it's Kevin. Could you just coordinate with him and just again express, the concern that we had at that at Dayland South Station?
And just to add, I think Steve's suggestion that he made at the last meeting and also today, which is really kind of out of the purview of the underline as it turns out, but to look at the bus ramp. I mean, they're moving the buses, they're building this ramp to do that. Is that an opportunity for the bicycles?
Well, that's
I
kind
don't know
of
that they explored it.
the double decking. That was not a joke. I mean, there are always ways to do something to mitigate the narrowness of these areas. So
Right. And there's other pinch points I can see. There's pinch points. There may not be anything that could be done, but for heaven's sakes, they're spending millions and millions of dollars on a station.
Right.
It just is
Right.
disheartening that they're not considering this.
I would add that we're the TARC committee and supposed to look at this from aesthetic value. And I don't know if we're the right committee to be barking, other than we can bring it to the table like we have, but
Right.
thank you for taking it to committee, because I think they do have the more power to speak up on this behalf.
Right. Well, I agree. I mean, I think that also our committee is the impact on the community is part of it. And this is a major user of that station and moving people through it effectively, either on bike or walking or riding or whatever. But that's at least to some extent under our purview. But I think we expressed pretty clearly to the consultants last time that we were alarmed about what their plan was, and again, just pushing with BPAC, who has quite a bit more say over something like that. But the specifics, it's hard to think outside the box, and maybe since you guys are also creative, your thoughts outside the box really help with them to formulate potentially some plan. I'm an accountant. I think in the box.
And it's a safety issue also, because you have those bikers. What if someone does not want to dismount and try to go around whatever way they can?
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So I mean, I think they got the point that they really need to study that choke point, that end, the end point, and see what they can do.
Yeah. And I had just heard that the Douglas station, there wasn't that much in change to the way it's laid out currently. So it's hard for me to visualize the crossing and then the moving through the station without actually seeing something. That's kind of why I like to see that also.
Right. I mean, they're building, I mean, there are a number of, I guess it's retail too. It's multifamily and retail. And right now they moved the parking lot closer to US 1. So it's all, it's all a mess right now. So I don't know what the end, I mean, I've seen renderings, but not full details of, what's going to happen in front of the Douglas station or whatever they're calling it. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Are there any other comments or reports from any other committee members? Okay, hearing no one, let's move on to staff reports. Oscar, do you have anything?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it blends perfectly with the previous conversation. We haven't had a resolution in quite some time, and it's maybe difficult to read this here. If it could be enlarged a little bit, but we did, as a TARC group, approve that presentation they made last time. Thank you. With the caveat, which is clearly there, that the recommendation that DTPW consider improving bike connectivity, landscaping, arts and public places, and lighting and signage into the design build phase of the project.
Right.
So it was recommended with a caveat that, yeah, you need to revisit this. And of course, they're going to come back to us in the future when they have the design plans in place. So we did, this is a part of the staff report, this resolution. So we did recommend that for advancement. However, given the, especially I put the bike connectivity first, because I know that was a big issue and it continues to be one. Also, I think next slide. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can I, you know how Coral Gables got so involved and had made things happen. So who's the Dadeland area? Is that South Miami?
No, that's unincorporated.
So there, like, we can't, we need some group down there to speak up on there. Yeah. I don't know who that
That would be unincorporated. That would be Miami-Dade County, so.
Right, but he's saying a resident residents group or something.
You
I
would
think there's a
think.
Kendall Association that
Right.
might,
That's
Yeah.
goes all the way out to the Everglades, right? To Chrome, I guess. I mean, it's a massive.
It could be one beautiful connection when it's all done, and it just seems crazy that that would be the choking point, and they don't design something to solve that. So,
Right.
all right, sorry, that's all I got to say.
All right. Anything else, Oscar?
yes, if you could move on to the next slide, please. Well, essentially, I remember, just to continue the staff reports, I believe it was Steve that brought it up last time that the lighting at 836, 826 intersection was weak at best. And I did get an email back from Miami-Dade Expressway Authority. They're the ones that are responsible for the lighting. And I'll just read out the paragraph that they returned to me. Thank you for your inquiry and concern. MDX is currently working with the lighting company that designed and provided the system to FDOT, who eventually turned over the system to MDX. Multiple issues have impacted the system, including State Road 826 Palmetto Express construction and some theft and attempted theft of the luminaries. We are working to get it restored, but have been additionally delayed due to the COVID-19 limitations and do not have an expected completion date. Believe me, we want to get it up and running as soon as possible. Once again, thank you for your concern. And that was from Rick Johnson, the operations and maintenance manager for Miami-Dade Expressway Authority. So they're aware of the problem and they're looking into it. I remember it was a warranty issue early on, and it's just one of those things. They know it's broken and they're trying to fix it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So new business, upcoming meetings. So you're scheduling one for the 18th of November, and then I will not be available December 16th. So Debbie, do you think you'd be available to have the meeting?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Okay,
I'll
yeah.
be here.
I mean, something was just scheduled, so if it goes through, I won't be available. So if you could be there, we can go forward with a meeting.
Yeah, and as
Yes,
we
I
all
will.
know, November 3rd, I'm sorry, and November 3rd is a big election day, so there'll
Yes.
be new commissioners coming in and some leaving, so that'll impact a few of our members.
Oh.
Not many.
Yeah,
Not
but
me.
So,
I mean, that's a good point. We'll have to discuss that at the 18th. How to deal with that.
I'll keep track of the results and respond to those who may no longer be a member and to those who may be new members. So I don't think it's going to impact us much. I think we're in good shape.
Right. Okay.
And we're hoping for November 18th, we either may have the underdeck, or if I get in communication with DTPW, it's maybe prioritize the Douglas Road US 1. Maybe it's TARC ready.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. At least there's some stuff happening now.
Yeah.
The other thing is where our future meetings will be if the governor didn't extend allowing remote meetings.
Yeah, we've had 3 Zoom meetings today because everybody's worried that we're not going to be able to have them after the deadline.
Yeah, after October 3rd or November
Right.
1st, it's not been
Exactly.
extended.
We moved into a new facility. We haven't, our stuff is at the new facility. We're all at home, most of us. We'll see, because it seems like the governor has waited for always the last week of the month to send executive orders out. I know he wants to get everybody back involved. I think the milestone of 5%, we're right at that threshold for infection rates. So we'll wait and see. But we do have accommodations to have people come in, and we'll establish some protocols to make sure everybody's safe, if in fact we do meet at the office.
Okay.
Where is the new location?
It's 150 West Flagler. It's the Bank of America building. It's the tall glass building that is just south of the library.
Okay.
So it's really just
just right there.
Yeah,
a block south of Dade County
Government Center.
Right.
Okay, anything else,
Okay.
Oscar?
I think we're good.
Okay, is there anyone from the public on the Zoom meeting that wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 5:16.
Very
Yes,
good.
sir.
Great.
Great meeting.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Stay safe. Wash your hands.
Second.
Wash your hands.